Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Welcome to the Performance Matters podcast from GP Strategies, your talent transformation partner. In each episode, we'll interview industry experts and explore best practices and innovative insights to help your organization improve performance.
Welcome to the Performance Matters podcast. I'm your host, Michael Thiel. You know, when it comes to organizational transformation, it'd be pretty tough to exclude AI from the conversation. After all, it's only the most rapidly adopted technology in history. And I don't know how you feel, but to me, it seems to be evolving on a daily basis. It's hard to keep up. So we thought it's time to get out in front of it and cast our focus on the future of AI as it pertains to our world, learning and development. So please join me for this very special, and we promise, all new recurring segment on the Performance Matters podcast. Future focus AI news for L&D. Listen, I can't do it alone. I'm going to need some talent transformation professionals that are living and breathing AI. So for today's kickoff edition, I am pleased and honored to be joined by two fellow members of the GP Strategies Research, Innovation, and Development Group. First, hailing from the Seven Hills of Cincinnati, Ohio, we have our very own modern learning advocate, recovering instructional designer, and rescue dog mom. Please welcome Cara Halter, Senior Director of the GP Strategies Global Learning Innovation Practice. Cara, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
So glad to be here and agree with everything you just said. I cannot go 2 hours of my day anymore without talking about AI or using AI. So it is for sure something I am living and breathing.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to have you here. Now, joining Cara and I late at night from the celestial island of Cyprus is our full-time international agent of AI and part-time Zumba instructor, Theodora Michaelidou. Theo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here and talk about one of my favorite topics.
Absolutely. I know you've been doing some serious work. Now, last time Theo was here, by the way, listeners, she dropped some serious knowledge on our global listening audience pertaining to prompt engineering and breaking down all the AI jargon. So if you're wanting to check that out, I would encourage you to check out episode 137. And now, Cara, I know you've been a multi-time guest on the pod discussing ways to engage the modern learner as well as develop leaders at multiple levels. So is it fair to say that both of you are ready for this conversation?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. I promise that we won't take up too much of your time today. I know you both are very busy here, but here's what I'd like to start off with is I'd like to get a sense of, I guess you could say it like the organizational zeitgeist out there. So let's talk about current opinions and perceptions. Theo, it's late where you're at, so why don't we start with you? What are you seeing?
I would say one of the first things that we see the benefits of using AI at work. So I know we have talked in the past a lot about that human plus AI equation, but what we start to see now is actual research findings that prove that a human plus AI can actually be more productive than a human alone. In a recent trial at P&G, titled The Cybernetic Teammate, we learned that having an AI on the team can help with like three key things. So it can help increase performance, provide expertise, and improve the overall experience. So what was interesting in the findings of that, individuals working with AI performed as well as teams without AI. So actually having a cybernetic teammate is like working in a team. It was pretty amazing, but the best outcomes were observed when a team was working with AI. So team plus AI outperforms human plus AI, and that outperforms the human alone. And that was pretty amazing. And basically what this study tells us is that we should see AI more like a teammate and less like just another tool. It's a shift of the mindset, I would say.
That's really cool. I love this idea of team plus AI. Cara, I know you're busy. You're working in this world. Do you have any examples that you could reveal to us? Any tea that you could spill?
Sure. So first of all, if you have not read the article that Theo was just referencing, I think Michael, we can probably put a link to it in our podcast series out there.
Yeah.
It really is a fascinating article, and it's really solid evidence-based research that this is a real thing that actually does show team productivity improvements and team even satisfaction improvements. Really fascinating. It's a lot of like A/B tests that they were doing, and the data is really fun to kind of dig into and look at. So definitely encourage reading that. terms of how are we seeing that kind of work. So that article at P&G was like product teams. So how does that start to
Okay.
translate to L&D teams, right? What does it look like to add an AI team member to a learning and development group? And so Theo and I actually are working on a team together right now where we are building an AI for everyone curriculum. What better way to add an AI teammate than working on an AI curriculum? So we've really had a lot of fun with this over the last few months. And I think we've found a lot of different ways to get benefit out of having like really this extra set of hands, right?
Yeah. So give me some examples. How are you specifically using it for L&D here?
I'll break it into two categories. I think we have been going to our AI friend as both a designer and as a developer. So, thinking about the designer side first. So, we have used AI and we've typically been going to, the traditional chatbot tools for this, right? Nothing fancy. We can use Copilot, you could use ChatGPT, whatever the approved tool is within your organization. But we've been going to that to do things like research. So, we've kind of used it as a research assistant to help us identify content, right? Like, what would you suggest are the top 3 things for this? Or how might what other categories are we not thinking of around risk? We have used it to help us create realistic scenarios to build into our training program. Or in some cases, we came up with a scenario and then we gave it to the AI and said, evaluate this. Like, how could this be better? How could it be more realistic? How could you add more detail to it? We've used it to take some of our content and ask it to refine or revise the writing just to take on a different tone or to make it more specific to our audience, make the transitions a little smoother. We've used it kind of as like a co-writing assistant. We've even used it to help us write video scripts. I will freely admit it was more creative than we were. So we took the first stab at it and then I was like, we're really not loving this. We're like, let's try see what AI comes up with. So we asked it to write a script for us and it did a really good job. I will say though that some of the lessons we've learned in that is as you're using AI, as this assistant, as this, kind of co-designer with you, don't ever take what it gives you on the first try as like the final answer. And I think one of the analogies I've been using that's kind of fun to me is to think about using AI as an intern and happens to be an unpaid intern, right? It's like free resources. You can give them as harsh a feedback as you want, and you can tell them to just keep iterating until you get something right. If it's version 15, they don't care. So, and I think that's kind of what we've done in using them as a co-designer.
You're bringing back memories to me of the show on HBO Max, Westworld, where they were just really rude to all their robot friends in the world there. So look, we're going to need to create a whole training class on AI etiquette on how to actually be kind to your AI site. I love your term, Theo, cybernetic teammate. I think that'll make L. Ron Hubbard happy in his grave there for sure.
It is, and I'm sure it's going to be an evolving practice, right?
Yeah.
What is the appropriate conduct when working with a robot?
If I'm summarizing what I'm hearing from both of you, it sounds like there's a lot of potential to reimagine the realities of what it means to be in a workplace. I mean, Theo, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, so it's all about reimagining how you do the work. So it's taking, like, for example, one of your existing workflows. Let's use design thinking now as an example, breaking it down into tasks and start thinking how I can start integrating AI into these tasks to do things faster, better, differently, or even to do things that we were not able to do before. So going back to the design thinking example, if we take the ideation phase, going back to our own experience with this, we're blown away with what we saw when we took a picture of a whiteboard filled with handwritten stickies. We uploaded that into an AI chatbot, and then we asked the chatbot to transcribe those stickies for us. Then we asked it to organize it and also identify themes. And it just did that in seconds. And that could be something that would
Wow.
take hours to do. So possibilities are endless.
And it was actually pretty good at it. That's even the crazier part.
Exactly.
You two are blowing my mind because I have done that from, you have those 3-day workshops and the room is filled with those post-it notes on the wall. And you're like, what am I going to do with these things? And, it's a day of labor to transcribe it, to think about it. And you're saying You took the pictures, you uploaded, and AI just did a bang up job of organizing it into themes. Am I hearing you correct? Are you hyperbolizing here, or is this the truth?
No, we actually tested that and it works. Like, of course, if the handwriting is not that great, it might give you some words that are not exactly right. At least it gives you a starting point and it saves you so much time from doing that manually. So we can certainly see the productivity gain there.
I would add to that too that a lot of the tools that are like whiteboarding tools like a Miro or a Mural or even Teams whiteboards are starting to build that functionality in. So if you do a
Oh, wow.
brainstorming session with the digital post-it notes and then ask AI to help you organize it, it'll do it for you. Another good example of how AI is starting to just show up in the seamless way of changing your workflows.
It's amazing. I love what you're saying, Theo, about this idea of rethinking workflow. And I love that idea that you said of chunk it into little bits of what are you normally doing, and then how would you potentially leverage AI. And I will attest that for me, very similar to both of you, from a productivity standpoint, it's been a game changer just to have, I'm going to steal your term now, cybernetic teammate by me to really help up my productivity there. So
I just want to make a disclaimer that the cybernetic teammate is not my term. It's like based on Ethan Mollick's article, so it doesn't go out in the wrong way. So I don't know, like when
No,
the
that's
best
good.
time
That's
to make
good.
that disclaimer. So
Now's the time. But I love the term. I'm going to start using it. To that point, though, Kira, as we were saying, beyond just the world of productivity, what else are you seeing in terms of emerging trends for AI?
Yeah, absolutely. And so first of all, I'll say the productivity gains are really fun and exciting. And I think that is where most L&D teams still are right now. The tools like the examples that you've just heard Theo and I both talk about. And I don't think I said as much about the development side of that AI curriculum. We've been using other productivity tools there like Colossian to develop avatar videos, and we've been using audio generation to create narration over our traditional videos. We've been using productivity in a lot of different ways on a lot of projects, and that is where most L&D teams are right now. But I think what's fun and exciting for me right now about where we are in this AI world and where we're headed is that productivity is just like barely scratching the surface, but it's fun, but all it's really doing is letting us create the same things that we've always created, maybe a little faster, maybe a little cheaper, maybe a little better, but it's still the same kind of learning deliverables that we've always had, right? It's still resulting in a video or a PDF or an e-learning course or a whatever. It's still traditional learning.
Right. On that whole tech transformation, it's still at the lower levels, what you're saying.
Exactly. Like it's definitely new. It's definitely transforming the way we get to those deliverables, but it's not transforming the learning itself. And I think that's where I'm starting to really see in just the last maybe 3 months or so, I'm starting to really see an explosion of platforms, the ed tech companies that are out there and our clients starting to think about, well, what else could I do that I couldn't do in 2022? Right? Not that long ago, just 2.5 years ago or so, none of this would have been possible. Like, what can I do now that's truly making learning different? And one of the tools, right? There's lots starting to spin in that space, but the ones that I've been hearing the most about are around AI-enabled coaching and AI-enabled role plays. So coaching and role plays, right? Those are two learning approaches that have been around forever, right? Those are
Oh, yeah.
decades old way of improving skills and helping develop talents, helping to, support the professional development process. But with AI, we can now think about them differently. Both coaching and role plays, are things that were hard to scale, right? Like how many human coaches do you need to be able to give coaching to an entire organization? How expensive is that? And in like the role play world, like, yeah, it works. It's a really common good way to practice and improve a skill, but nobody likes it.
Oh my God, you're telling me like how many times have you been given a role play card and it's like, oh, you're a disgruntled 30-year employee and you have to have a critical conversation with someone else. And it's just, I like the spirit behind it, but it's just so freaking awkward, right? So you're telling me there's some potential there for AI.
Exactly, right? Like role plays have only been as good as the acting capability of the person sitting across from you and the coaching capability of the person observing you being able to give give you reasonable feedback. And those were hit or miss, right? They weren't very consistent and often
Absolutely.
weren't very good. So now we can take AI and AI can play that character that you're interacting with. You can train it with all that backstory and all that information and all their objections and questions and things to be a truly realistic conversation. And we can train the AI coach to observe what's happening and give really good feedback. So I think like this is a category of tools is just really taking off because it's something that people can wrap their head around. It's a tried and true training technique, but now we can do it at scale in a really creative and realistic way using AI. Starting to take off for sure. But again, that even is still just scratching the surface. I think that's like wave 2, right? Productivity is sort of wave 1. This like new learning approaches is sort of wave 2. But where we're headed is where you really start to see learning in the flow of work. And we start to move away from these independent learning events and learning deliverables and starting to see learning truly just like embedded in our tools, embedded in our workflows, embedded in everything that we do with AI agents and with automation and with, all these seamless ways of putting it in there. So the future definitely going to look different.
Yeah, beyond productivity, that's really exciting. Specifically, you're saying things get really personalized if you can have coaching and role play. It's really at that true level of you're getting past just that boilerplate element there. I mean, there's so many opportunities now. Theo and Cara, my mind is kind of getting blown right here in terms of all the different opportunities beyond productivity. I know we've promised to keep this short, a tight little series here. What would be a future topic that we should talk about on the next episode?
I would say a very interesting and also important point is that of security. We see a lot of things happening around us, and I cannot help not to mention that viral action figure trend that we see pop up in all the social channels where you upload a picture of yourself and then AI converts that into an action figure. But what most of us don't realize is that when you upload an image of yourself, you're giving access to your face, but also whatever is in that image. So that's a very simple example of like things that we should consider as we interact with AI. And I'm sure that Cara has a lot to share around that also.
Yeah, I think, Michael, I think this will be a great topic for an upcoming podcast because there's so much going on in the security space. And I'll just tease a little bit in saying that there are so many new regulations that are coming out around this, from the EU AI Act that's coming out to, all the individual companies out there coming up with their own AI governance processes, how it's changing and impacting the way that we implement technology within organizations. It's a whole thing right now that seems to be changing and rapidly evolving that would be a great topic to explore for a bit.
I like it. And I have to say, this has been a wonderful starting conversation. Theo and Cara, thank you for joining us on the podcast.
The Performance Matters podcast is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts or listen on our website at gpstrategies.com.